Premier League leaders are now pulled into football's historical abuse scandal, the cyber attack on the National Lottery, and a warning about who's watching you on a webcam. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Chelsea Football Club are accused of making a secret payment to an alleged abuse victim who threatened to go public. Thousands of lottery customers have their online accounts hacked. And the criminals blackmailing men with explicit webcam videos. Also tonight, we're discussing calls to change the law on divorce. Should anyone have to be at fault to end a marriage? And
Tory majority, government, Brexit, Trump.
Meet Jonathan Pye. I'll be talking to the man behind the spoof reporter about his success and the failures of everyone he satirises. Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. Chelsea are the latest high-profile football club to be embroiled in allegations of historical sexual abuse. The club have confirmed they've called in lawyers to investigate claims that an employee abused a youth team player in the 1970s. It's being reported that the alleged victim was paid off after threatening to go public. Our chief correspondent Tessa Chapman reports now on a story that is sending shockwaves through the sport.
Making headlines day after day, the beautiful game is facing a crisis. And now the abuse scandal has drawn in one of Britain's biggest football clubs. A report in The Telegraph claims Chelsea paid hush money to a former youth team footballer who made allegations of sexual assault against this man, Eddie Heath, Chelsea's top talent spotter in the 1970s, who has now passed away. Chelsea have released a statement which doesn't name Heath, but does say they have hired a law firm to carry out an investigation into an individual who worked at the club in the 1970s and is now deceased. They go on to say that they have contacted the FA and will pass on any relevant information. Former Chelsea and England player Ray Wilkins was coached by Eddie Heath for many years. He's shocked by the allegations.
I knew Eddie for a long time. I joined Chelsea when I was 10 and a half, and I had the pleasure of meeting him then. So yeah, I would say my childhood at Chelsea was an extremely happy one, along with a lot of other guys there as well. So naturally I was surprised last night, yeah.
As Chelsea and other well-known clubs carry out their own reviews, the FA's internal investigation is also underway. But one MP fears confidentiality agreements signed between some clubs and alleged victims could hamper progress.
The FA should tell clubs that they must tear up these confidentiality agreements to allow the victims of abuse to come forward and share their stories. And I think the FA should make absolutely clear that if clubs refuse to do that, and they're found to have not done that, that the FA will take sanctions within the game against those clubs.
Under an increasingly intense spotlight, football is under pressure to prove investigations are not just rigorous, but transparent too. Tessa Chapman, 5 News.
More than 26,000 lottery users have had their personal information hacked. Camelot, which runs the lottery, says no money has been taken, but customers' accounts have been accessed and a few have seen their details changed. The security breach raises questions about how safe data is, as Danny Sinha reports.
If you play the National Lottery online, be careful, it could be you. And we're not talking cash prizes. Around 26,500 players have had their online accounts hacked. Details such as their name, date of birth, contact details, the last 4 digits of their card number, and even its expiry date may now be in the hands of cyber criminals. Those affected say they want answers.
I'd like to see the National Lottery contact all of the users that have been affected and let us know where this data was taken from, if it was taken from a third-party website. I think that would be the prudent next step, so I can remove my data from that site.
Camelot says they became aware of the problem on Monday and suspended the affected accounts immediately. They insist fewer than 50 accounts have had some activity take place since the attack, but Camelot's own systems have not been hacked. In a statement they say, "We believe that the email address and password used on the National Lottery website may have been stolen from another website where affected players use the same details. We'd like to reassure our customers that protecting their personal data is of the utmost importance to us." Earlier this month, Tesco Bank fell victim to a cyber attack, which resulted in it paying out an estimated £2.5 million to 9,000 customers. And in September, a Yahoo data breach affected 8 million user accounts in the UK and compromised around 500 million accounts globally.
Every single piece of data has a value. On its own, maybe not so much, but as all these data breaches happen, as we see all these different, masses and masses of information, all gets correlated together, and criminals are able to build up like a profile.
3 opportunities per week to play this game.
The Wheel of Fortune may not be working in Camelot's favour, and they are trying to restore customers' confidence. The Information Commissioner's Office has launched an investigation into the incident. Danny Sinha, 5 News.
The first case of the sexually transmitted Zika virus in the UK has been reported, according to Public Health England. The woman is thought to have been infected by her partner, who'd recently visited a Zika-hit country. She has since made a full recovery. Officials say there have been 256 cases of the virus in Great Britain. Police say 4 men have killed themselves in the UK because they are victims of so-called sextortion. International gangs of organised criminals are said to be targeting young men by using fake identities online to then lure them into performing sexual acts in front of webcams. They'll then threaten to share those details unless they are paid money. There have been nearly 900 cases in 2016 alone, as Simon Viger explains.
This is an online police awareness video. What the actress says is based on what's really happening every day.
Hey, how are you doing?
The usual targets for extortion or sextortion are young men, and once they've exposed themselves on their webcam, they're blackmailed.
Your contacts have been downloaded.
These are the words of one of the victims who've contacted police.
The messages came up, pay £500 or this is going all over Facebook. I want £500. Then she started listing my friend's details. I was trembling throughout the whole thing, shaking and thinking, what's going to happen? This will ruin my life. I thought about suicide.
The police say they know of at least 4 suicides linked to sextortion. One was 17-year-old Daniel Perry from Dunfermline. Another, also 17, was Ronan Hughes from County Tyrone.
We've seen an enormous increase. We started to notice this emerging last year, and this year now we've had over 900 offences reported to the police, which is nearly triple what we had the year before. But what worries me is I suspect there are an awful lot of victims out there who are not reporting it to the police.
Because you know what? You're being recorded. Understand?
She works for me.
The scam starts with a friend request on social media and sooner or later progresses to a webcam conversation. The blackmail is immediate. Wayne May hasn't been targeted, but runs this website to help people who have.
We get a lot of people come in to us and say, if the video ever gets leaked, I will kill myself. So we know it's something that people are considering when this happens to them. And I say we know from the past that people have done this before.
Police are targeting gangs in the Philippines, the Ivory Coast and Morocco.
We know there are several organisations based overseas that are making millions of pounds out of this offence. They are very sophisticated in the use of technology, the use of money transfers. This is a big business.
The advice is don't panic, don't pay, do go to the police. There are prosecutions and detectives believe it's the tip of an online iceberg. Simon Viger, 5 News.
Next, is there such a thing as a blame-free divorce? Well, a group of family lawyers are trying to take the confrontation out of what is, for many, an extremely painful and difficult decision. At the moment, a couple has to say one or the other is guilty of adultery or unreasonable behaviour. That, say lawyers, makes any hostility even worse, so they're suggesting a new, more positive way of doing things. Olivia Kinsley has the story.
Natasha Britton had a beautiful white wedding. But when after 16 years the marriage broke down, she and her then husband decided to try to make it an amicable divorce.
We've all heard these horrendous stories where, court cases have gone on and on and on, there's toing and froing. The children, if there are children, are in the middle of it, and we just didn't want that.
To divorce, a couple must prove the marriage has irretrievably broken down through adultery, desertion, unreasonable behaviour or separation. None of those applied to Natasha's situation, so to prevent a long divorce, she told a lie.
So you said you cheated when you didn't?
Yeah, I just ticked the box, the adultery box, because it just seemed the easiest way. You have an immense amount of paperwork.
Natasha says having a no-fault option in divorce, where neither side accepts blame, could reduce some of the burden and pain. 150 family lawyers are now lobbying MPs to bring that in.
If we make divorce easier, will more people just get divorced?
I don't think this is making divorce easier in any way. It's about supporting, it's about compassion, it's about, I just think, kindness and respect. And if society starts acknowledging how difficult it is and can remove some of those obstacles and those hurdles, like this question in the papers, wonderful.
She now runs a website helping people through their breakups and tells them not to focus on blame. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
With me now is Nigel Shepherd from the Family Law Group Resolution and Ben Cooper from Christian Concern. Nigel, should divorce be made easier?
Good evening, Matt. I don't think divorce is ever easy for the people going through it. People don't wake up in the morning and say, do you know what, today I want a divorce. The people I see in my office regularly, they've normally thought about it very carefully. It's not what they want, but they recognise that when the marriage is broken down, what they would like to be able to do is to proceed with the consequences, sorting out the money, most importantly, sorting out the children, without having to blame each other. And our current system pushes them into a blame game.
Ben, we heard from Natasha there that she wanted to divorce her husband amicably, but the system wouldn't really let her do that, so surely it has to change.
I think what we should be focusing on here, Matt, is providing a system which actually serves the interests of society, of the family and of the children, and in the best possible way. Now, we recognise and affirm the incredible significance and importance of marriage, and we don't want to create a situation in which children of divorced couples, research has been conducted to show that they're more likely to take drugs, more likely to fail their exams.
Isn't it worse if their parents are staying together through a very messy divorce because the system won't let them part in a more amicable fashion?
One of the things that we believe should be done is actually focusing on how their marriage can actually be strengthened, because divorce is a tragedy and we want to support their marriage rather than accepting that, that divorce should be the easy way out.
Now, is there an imbalance between getting married and getting divorced, i.e. one and the other should be equal? Perhaps it's just too easy to get married rather than it being too hard to get divorced.
I think that might be the case, but I think the real issue here is that if you are going to get divorced, you should be able to do that in as constructive and as amicable a way as possible. People need to be able to focus on their future rather than recriminating on the past. That's the best way to sort out, for example, how they can co-parent effectively together. If you start the process off with a blame game, then things can go rapidly downhill from there, and that's the change that we believe is needed in the law.
What progress are you making towards getting the law changed so there is no blame when a divorce happens?
Well, I've come today from Westminster, where 150 resolution members from up and down the country descended on Westminster to talk to local MPs and to ministers who turned up. And everybody that we spoke to, once they understood the nonsense that is the current law, to be frank, were very keen on seeing what we could do to change it. So I'm guardedly optimistic that we might now get the change that we think is needed.
Ben, I know you're from Christian Concern, and this will be of concern to some Christians, but not just Christians. All sorts of people might feel that this is in some way undermining marriage. Is that what you are worried about?
There are, of course, many concerns. The ones that you've mentioned, undermining the sanctity and the importance of marriage, but also the fact that the proposed changes could actually be anti-women. Because the fact that marriage isn't so easy to get out of at the minute actually supports that woman and prevents her husband from just leaving. You know, he's forced to look at how they can address their marriage, how they can strengthen their marriage. So we actually feel, yes, this could be...
Of course, marriage isn't just between men and women anymore.
Well, Christian Concern definitely believe the fact that the best place for children to be raised is actually within a marriage of parents of the opposite sex.
OK, here's a question, though. If divorce is perceived as being too difficult, should things go wrong, wouldn't that then put some people off getting married in the first place, and then they'll be having children outside of marriage, which you disagree with?
We, of course, believe that marriage is extremely important and shouldn't be entered into lightly, absolutely. It's a institution that God has created to bring two people together in a covenantal relationship. And of course, people will at times have children outside of marriage. But we still believe that it is an institution that should be promoted for the interests of children, for the interests of society as a whole, and in order to protect women.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Still to come on 5 News Tonight. Preparing to be president. Donald Trump says he's quitting his business empire. And Gareth Southgate is confirmed as the England manager. So can he end the jinx of football's impossible job? That suggests not, doesn't it? We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Now, he's said to be worth the equivalent of £3 billion and has more than 500 different enterprises in his empire. And in the lead up to the US election, Donald Trump insisted that he could run both the presidency and his businesses perfectly. Well, not anymore. The president-elect took to his favourite medium, Twitter, to announce a bit of a change of heart. Our political editor, Andy Bell, reports.
Before he was elected president, he was a businessman, and he seemed reluctant to give that up. But today, Donald Trump has said he will cut the links with his business empire when he takes up office in January. In a couple of tweets, of course, he said, "I'll be holding a major news conference in New York City with my children on December the 15th to discuss the fact that I will be leaving my great business in total in order to fully focus on running the country in order to make America great again."
Bradford, you're fired.
The president-elect made a fortune as a reality TV star, and he has an extensive business portfolio, especially property, whether in the United States, Dubai, Scotland and further afield. His opponents have been saying he risks a serious conflict of interest if he doesn't sever those ties. He says his family can run the business, but he's already caused alarm by mixing them into his new political world. For instance, his daughter and son-in-law were there for his first meeting with a foreign leader, the Japanese Prime Minister. Meanwhile, he's still putting his team together. He had dinner with Mitt Romney, a man who once called him a phony, but who now may be in line to become Secretary of State.
We had another discussion about affairs throughout the world, and these discussions I've had with him have been enlightening and interesting and engaging. I've enjoyed them very, very much.
America and the world must get used to the Trump way of doing things. In 7 weeks, he'll be president. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Listen to this. Sleep-deprived workers are costing the UK economy £40 billion a year, according to a new study of our sleeping habits. And researchers say getting just an extra hour a night could have a significant impact on productivity and probably your mood. I'm joined by a lead investigator, Dr. Marco Hafner from RAND Europe, which carried out the study. How do you quantify, Marco, whether sleeping more leads to more productivity, what we make and what we produce?
So basically we know that, for instance, if you sleep less than 6 hours, you're more likely to die at any given point in time.
That's not
so
good.
It's not good. So you're more likely to have a car accident, or over time you may develop some chronic health conditions such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, hypertension and so on. So given that you die prematurely, you cannot really supply your kind of labor to the economy, which has a negative effect. But at the same time, if you sleep less than a certain amount of time, you're more likely to be absent from work because you might just get more likely a common flu than a worker or an employee who sleeps a healthy range of hours. But at the same time, you might go to work, but you're just not as productive as you're supposed to be if you would have slept more.
We're not all worker ants, of course. There are many other benefits, perhaps more important benefits to sleeping the right amount. But we're all different, aren't we? So one person's 6 hours of good sleep a night is another person's 9 or 10 hours a night.
Yeah, we have to be clear. I mean, sleep is a very individual thing. So you might need 7 hours, I might need 6.5 hours. But I think what is important for everyone to understand what is its individual optimal amount of sleep and stick to that at night. But what we know, there's some critical points. So if you sleep, for instance, really less than 6 hours on a regular basis, this is really when the bad things start to kick in terms of negative health outcomes, social outcomes, as we just discussed discussed, you might have a bad mood more likely, and that has very negative effects on your relationships as well.
In these instances, people always talk about Margaret Thatcher getting by on something like 4 hours sleep a night, and she was the Prime Minister for over a decade. So, like I say, one person's good night's sleep is another person's bad night's sleep. If it's productivity you're worried about, employers, I should say, I haven't had enough sleep, clearly, are employers doing enough to encourage people to sleep properly?
It's probably we're still not fully there that really employers encourage people to sleep. I think we need to really have a cultural change where companies incorporate a culture that values actually sleep. And this could come in many different ways. So for instance, you could, in companies, in their health and well-being programs that they offer employees, they could offer certain things like sleep training and so on. But I think as long as the senior management or senior leadership in a company says, I get around with 4 hours of sleep,
yes,
that's not a really good sign, a kind of signal to employees who might then feel that they feel it as shirkers if they don't sleep the right amount of time.
So look for a boss who likes to lie in. Marco, many thanks indeed.
Thanks.
For years, he was best known for that missed penalty at Euro 96. But today, Gareth Southgate's position at the top of English football was confirmed. The former international, who's been England's interim manager for their past 4 games, has been made the permanent boss, finally. He follows in the footsteps of Sam Allardyce, who was forced to quit after just 67 days in the role. Peter Lane has been getting reaction from Middlesbrough, the only club that Southgate has ever managed before.
The handshake, the deal done. Gareth Southgate has got the job.
I'm extremely proud. I think myself, my family, everybody that has helped me on my journey within football as a player or a coach, this is a very proud moment for all of those people. So I'm also conscious that getting the job is one thing. I want to do the job successfully.
This was his last game as temporary manager, a friendly against Spain, which ended in a draw. Now he's stepping fully into the spotlight that's seen plenty of faces come and go. Back in 2006, Sven-Göran Eriksson was England manager, replaced by Steve McClaren, followed by Fabio Capello, a caretaker in Stuart Pearce, Roy Hodgson's longer stint, Sam Allardyce for just 1 game, and now Gareth Southgate. That's 7 managers in only 10 years.
If England managers like to talk about their club history, Gareth Southgate only has 1 chapter as manager here at Middlesbrough, and it's less than glowing. They were relegated, he was sacked.
But the town's football editor thinks he was thrown into management too early back then, and that the time is now right.
I think a lot of it's about being in the right place at the right time, isn't it, in football? And Gareth's, I guess, the safe choice for England. He's got the background with the under-21s. He knows the characters around the England team. He knows the players intimately.
I think he's fantastic. He was a very good player, and he was a very good manager for Middlesbrough.
And I think he showed himself in the under-21s, so yeah, happy for him.
The future's bright.
Future is bright, and yeah, I'll always consider him a Middlesbrough legend, to be honest.
The penalty nightmare of Euro 96 will never leave Gareth Southgate, but it's all character-building stuff, and he did manage to embrace the joke in this TV ad. 20 years later, he's having the last laugh.
Thanks a lot, boys. I feel much better now.
Peter Lane, 5 News.
Now, when actor and comedian Tom Walker created his spoof news reporter Jonathan Pie, he couldn't have predicted the wealth of stories that 2016 has delivered for him to offer his unique take on. But despite Brexit, it's not his commentary on British politics that's catapulted him into the public eye, but his response to Donald Trump's success. The video he posted online the day after Trump's victory has been viewed now more than 100 million times, I believe. I'll be talking to Tom in just a second. But first, let's take a quick look at Jonathan Pie in action.
Not everyone that voted for Trump is a sexist or a racist. Some of them are, but most aren't. Most people didn't vote for her, not because she's a woman. They didn't vote for her because she offered no palpable change whatsoever.
But 120 million and 1 views now, Tom. Let's just talk about how you came up with Jonathan Pie. And I just want to call you Jonathan, but I won't. How you came up with him, and are you surprised by how it's just gone?
I'm amazed at how far it's gone, but actually, you know, I can now sort of retrospectively look at it, and actually, sort of, for a while there, we lost the art of satire, I think. And So actually, there's a whole new generation that are coming to see Pi, this angry satire, like it kind of used to be.
Yes, because it's on YouTube, but you take it on tour as well. Yeah,
taking it on tour, but that satire was sort of lost, and in this sort of age of what we call sort of fake news, actually sometimes the lines between satire and fake news are kind of blurred. But it actually came out of necessity. I've been an actor for many years, and for 2 or 3 years there, I wasn't getting anywhere, and I kind of thought I can't really sustain this financially and mentally, if I'm honest, you know. So I'm not going to go out without a fight. I'd had this character in my head for some years, and I thought, well, let's just do it and see what happens. And the 4th one went kind of viral, so I've been doing it every week for a year, and I've been touring with the live show of it. And then I did this thing about Trump, which I must say that I co-wrote. I co-wrote quite a lot of them, and I co-wrote the live show with a co-writer called Andrew Doyle. And we thought it would just be an interesting take. It's so easy to satirise Trump, and I'll be doing that for the next 4 years. But let's take a look at not why he won, but why Clinton lost. And let's take a look at... And that's the beauty of him. Not only is he frustrated, as an old-school lefty, he's frustrated at the right, but he's frustrated at the left for continually losing, you know.
But... You point out that it is satire, but some in the States have completely missed that point and thought you were a genuine news reporter ranting about the US election.
I think that's... I mean, hopefully, when I first did it, you want there to be this element of realism to it. You want it. You want people to think...
I've seen plenty of reporters like Jonathan.
Well, a lot of journalists kind of go, "Did you start off doing this?" You go, "No, it's just a performance." But you hope kind of the first time that people see it, they kind of go, "God, is this?" One assumes after the 3rd or 4th time, you go, "Right."
So you like that you hoodwink them in some way?
There's an element to that to start with, but now people tune in weekly to see what the character, he's a fictional character, he clearly is. And by virtue of him becoming a fictional character, he's great to write for and play. He's full of contradictions, he's dogmatic, he's always right in his head. But one week he can say something out and contradict himself the next, and like we all do.
But the timing clearly is key. And I don't know if it's fortuitous or if it was your better judgment or what, but we're in a time with Brexit or with the US election where people are more divided into 2 groups than perhaps they were, and the same if you're a Labour supporter or Conservative supporter, whatever, much more divided. Is that given you the ground, if you like, to use?
It started off not long after the Conservatives won the last election, and actually I'm in the process of writing a television show for him, and I want it to start with the Conservatives coming into power. And so I've been looking recently at the evening that happened, and it's very easy for us now to go, oh yes, we have a Tory majority government. Actually, at the time, that was a surprise to everyone.
We all got it wrong.
Everyone got it wrong. But it's easy to forget that now. And then Brexit. We all got it wrong. Even people that voted for it, I don't think a lot of them thought it would actually happen. I genuinely believe that most of them that voted for it genuinely wanted it to happen, and I respect them for that. And now Trump.
Now Trump.
No one predicted it.
Continue to get things wrong. And I can't get this wrong because I'm afraid we're out of time. I wish we had the freedom of YouTube sometimes. Tom, many thanks indeed. Good luck with it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
That's it from us. Claire has the weather next. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.